So we had to discuss about the validation rule setup. So validation rule, basically we had seen the trust, basically how to enable the trust and the validation rule and how to set up the trust part. So today we'll be seeing the validation rule, and validation rule is basically used to downgrade the trust. So if we have to downgrade the value of any particular column, we have to come to the base object itself, and under the base object we have this validation rule setup. So once we come here and use this add validation rule, we will get these options. So there are basically 5 types of rules which we can use. So starting with the existence check. So if you click on any of the rule, you can see what is the where condition on the down. So for example, existence check, if you select, it says that where the column name is null. So here we can, in the column name, we can select any column name. In this, all the columns that are present in my base object, all the columns will be visible. So here it's not like, for example, if we have trust on those columns, like we have trust on 5 columns and we had a validation rule on 4 columns. So that you can see it here itself, like we had seen this part when we had defined it. If you go to the column level, you can see here that trust is enabled. For example, here it is enabled for 6 columns and the validation is enabled for 5 columns. So it's not like whatever columns is enabled for trust, only on those columns I can put the validation rule. Validation rule can be defined on any column. For example, customer class. This column doesn't have any trust here, but I can say if it is a business requirement where we can see if the customer class is coming as null, I want to downgrade the first name, middle name and last name value. That can be a business scenario. So based on any column that we have in a base object, I can downgrade only those columns which I have selected for validate. So that is here. We cannot downgrade like any other column. For example, full name. Full name we cannot downgrade because I have not selected it for validate. Whatever columns I have selected for validate, only those columns I can downgrade. And that downgrade can be based on any column. So once we come to the validation rule setup and click on this add validation rule. So here we can say where any column, for example, customer class is null, or if you click on this, you will see is null or is not null. These two options comes here. So based on this condition, whether customer class is null, I want to downgrade some specific column. So what is specific column you can downgrade? That is specified in the middle box. So as of now, it shows only first name. So you can downgrade a single column or you can downgrade multiple columns at the same time. So you can, if you click on this edit button, you will see those columns on which trust is enabled. Not trust, basically you have enabled the validation. So these are the columns on which validation is enabled. So only those columns will come here and we need to select specific columns which we want to downgrade and bring it up here. So once these columns have come here, I can say that I want to downgrade it by a particular percentage. So we can specify the values like by how much percentage we want to downgrade these values. So in case I have the data where customer class is coming as null, these 3 values will get downgraded by 50%. So that's basically existence check. And one more thing to be noticed here is the column names. If you see the column names, all the column names are appended with S dot. So S basically represents the staging tables. So because validation rules are calculated when you run the load job, means when you load the data from your staging table to the base object table, at that time validation rules are calculated and they are stored in a table. There are 2 tables that we will see, which are the supporting tables of a base object and they are called VCT and VXR tables, underscore VCT underscore VXR. So in those tables, it will store the data, that whether the validation rule for each and every row and column is success or failed. So at the table level, we'll see later. So that's an existence check. Similarly, domain check is there, which is like an in operator or not in operator. So if you click on this part, you will see like in or not in. So if you want to check this, like for example, where customer class, you can say not in PQ, you can have values as P or add domain value PQ. So here we can say if the customer class is not in P and Q, I want to downgrade some specific column. So that's a domain check here, and similarly referential integrity check, which is not exist operator. So whatever rules you have, if you click on the rules, it will show you what is the SQL here. Similarly, pattern validation is a like operator or not like operator. So in all of them, if you have noticed, you can use only one condition, only one where condition. You cannot use like multiple where conditions. But there might be some requirement where I say that if first name is coming as null and this last name is also null, then only I want to downgrade all the columns. So in this case, I cannot use any one of these because it doesn't allow us to use like multiple columns. Only one column can be used at a time. So for this, what we have to do, we have to use the last one, which is called as a custom. So if you use the custom rule, in this we can type our own rule. Basically, we can say that s dot first name, like where s dot first name is null, and we can say s dot last name so whereas first name is null and last name is null, I want to downgrade it by specific percentage. So here we can put our own where conditions, and based on that I can downgrade a single column or I can downgrade multiple columns. And then there is one more option here, which is called as a reserve minimum trust. So reserve minimum trust, we always select this option, reserve minimum trust. So what it does is it doesn't allow us to the max trust to go beyond the minimum value that we have specified. Because suppose like here for the first name, I come and give downgrade by 100%. But I have used this option reserve minimum trust. In this case, what will happen? So for that, like let us go to systems and trust so that we can see the trust values. So like I am in the systems and trust and I have selected the first name column. Suppose like I am loading the data from the CRM system and we have a validation rule that if first name is coming as null, downgrade by 100%. In this case, what it will do, it will make the maximum value and the minimum value both to 0, 0. Because we have set downgrade by 100%. But usually like just as a general practice, we can say that we always select that reserve minimum trust because we have specified a minimum value for every source system and we don't want it to go beyond that value. So if you select that option reserve minimum trust, what it will do, it will not allow you the maximum value. Even if you say downgrade by 100%, the maximum value will go down only till 20. So the maximum and minimum value both will be 20, 20. That is the only scenario of reserve minimum trust. If you select that option, it will not allow us the maximum value basically to go down beyond the minimum value we have specified, because that's the minimum value we have given, and all the records that are trust enabled will have that as a minimum value. It cannot go beyond that minimum value, because as we had discussed previously, like for the CRM system, for example, we have given a decay period of 12 months here. So initially for the first day it will be 80, and after the 12 months period is over, it will go down to 20, and from there onwards it will be 20 only. It will not go beyond 20. So similarly, like here, as a part of lab, you will be creating two rules. So we'll just look into those rules that you will be doing as a part of lab. The first one is like validate first name. So that's a rule name like validate first name, which is an existence check rule, and where we are saying that where first name is null, downgrade the first name by 50%. So that is the rule, which is downgrading the first name by 50%. And the second rule is like the last name, where last name is null, downgrade the last name by 40%. So you can change here, we can put like 2, so that, for example, if the last name is coming as null, I will downgrade both last name and middle name by 40%. And we will select this option as reserve minimum trust. So these are the two rules, and both are based on the existence check.
So this downgrade percentage and reserve minimum trust, is it something we need to decide on our own, or it is the business which gives you?
No, this we have to decide. We have to decide on our own, and that is based on what trust value we have given. So, like for example, if you go to the systems and trust, here like you have given CRM system as 80 and sales as 70. So you just have to give like, if in case CRM is sending you bad data, the trust value should go beyond 70, less than 70. Then only sales will get promoted. So at least if we give 15% or 20% downgrade, that should be fine. Or even if you give more, that is also fine. I mean the main thing is that this value 80 should come below 70. Then only this sales will get promoted into the master record.
Okay.
So you can give any downgrade percentage, but it should come less than 70. That's the only thing. So if you have more than source system, like you might have 4 system or 5 systems which might be there. So whatever numbers you have given, based on those numbers you have to decide that if I downgrade by this much percentage, then only it will come, means less than the least trusted value. So that is just based on the maximum and this maximum value we have given for each and every source system. So if there is more difference, you will have to give like more downgrade percentage.
Vinay, this is George.
Yeah, George.
I am thinking about a scenario. Let's say you have a record with invalid name or maybe some other column, and
Yes.
it went through, and because it was invalid, we downgraded, let's say, not 50% but 20%, something like that.
Yes.
Then the next day, the same record comes in, but it came in because there was some change maybe in another column.
Yeah.
Which was maybe valid or invalid, but because the record came through and the column that we validated first time is still invalid, will it apply, will it,
Yes.
will it downgrade it again for another?
No, if it is a valid data, it will not downgrade again.
No. It's the same data. It wasn't. It came invalid yesterday, and it came invalid today.
Yeah, then again it will be downgraded because it's
So
coming as an update. So MDM again has to, like we saw the scenario when the trust and validation are applied. So it is applied in two scenarios. First is when we are merging the records, and second when an update comes for a particular record. So whenever an update comes for a particular record, MDM first, what it does, it will update at the cross-reference table. So the cross-reference table is updated. Once it is updated, it will calculate the trust and validation rule. So based on that, it will check what is the final value and what is the value at the base object level. If the incoming record is more trusted, then only it will get promoted at the base object level. Otherwise, it just keeps that at the cross-reference level. It will not promote at the base object level.
but it will update. Will it update even if it's the same value, or it will? Maybe I'm missing.
If it is same value is coming, it will not update. It will just update the last update date, because we are passing an update. So in the cross-reference table, we have a last update date. So that will get updated, but the value will not change.
Okay, but because the value is still invalid, it will downgrade it for another 20%, right?
Yeah, again it will get downgraded, and again MDM will compare like what is the final trust value in the cross-reference, what is the trust value in the base object level. So if the cross-reference has more trust, then only it will get promoted at the base object level, otherwise it will not promote.
Okay, so it's possible that if the value was not fixed in the source system, then it will quickly downgrade the trust over the maybe like few days if the record was coming through every day, like because there was some change.
Sorry, can
you
come again?
So what I'm saying, the column or the specific column can be downgraded several times.
Yeah, it will be downgraded every time when you send an update. And if it is a bad value, every time it will calculate. Because whenever you are sending an update, it will always update your cross-reference table. Once it has updated the cross-reference table, it has to decide, because it is a trusted column, so it has to decide whether this incoming record, should be promoted at the base object level or not. So for that, it has to calculate trust and validation rule.
Right, but the value did not change, right?
Yeah, the value didn't change. So again, it will be like it is a bad value. So again, downgrade will happen, and nothing will happen to that record. There will be no change at the base object level. And at the cross reference also, there is no change because the value is not changed. But because we are sending an update, the last update date column in the cross reference will get changed. That's the only difference. Last update date will change, and probably the SRC LUD date will also change. Those two columns will get changed. Other than that, no column will change.
Yeah, it's the same thing as I was talking last time. Like I don't feel the difference between downgrading for 50% or 100%. I mean, if the value is invalid, it's invalid.
Yeah, correct. See, that is what we said. We cannot, whatever value we have got, we can just decide like based on both the values, because business has given me like this trust and validation, that what is the trust, which system is more trusted. So even if like you say that both the system are giving me bad data, then I cannot help it out. I have to promote one of them into the base object. So that is what we had discussed previously, like if we go to this, for example, first name, if sales system is also giving me bad data and CRM is also giving me bad data, I will downgrade both of them by 50%. That is what maximum I can do. So even after downgrading by 50%, CRM is more trusted because it will have a value of 40, sales will have a value of 35. So whatever value I have in the CRM, that will get promoted into the master.
But both of them will be wrong, right?
So that we cannot help it out. That is not our problem as a developer. We don't have any problem. That is a business problem, that business should send us correct data. If the data is bad in the business side, that is their responsibility to correct and resend the data back to us again. So no one can, even if you have to correct the data, you cannot correct the data as a developer. You cannot touch basically business data unless you are a business analyst or a data analyst who who has the responsibility of looking into their data and modifying the data.
Yeah, you see, like, when we say the data is correct, so like
Yeah.
one may be more correct than another, like maybe it's a little bit better. But when you say about something which is wrong, which is incorrect, how can you say like that something is more incorrect than another? Because both of them are incorrect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, understood. But in this case, we cannot, like, whatever logic you are trying to explain, that we cannot here put
We
here,
cannot
because
implement it. I understand.
we cannot implement here, because here we can just say whether it is a null or not null, whether it is like we check like these validation rules. So if you saw the validation rule, it is just like exist operator, in operator, like operator. So we are just checking whether it is like this or it is null or not null. Based on that, we are validating it. So based on data, we are not validating. Based on some conditions, we are validating it.
Okay. So will the business tell us like how much we have to downgrade it?
No, business.
Or we will decide like how we downgrade it. 50% or 20%. How would you decide it?
That is on us. Whatever value I want, I will put it there. As I just told, it should come that if CRM is giving me bad data, I have to make it like 69 at least. Then only the sales record will get promoted. So you cannot put like 10% downgrade. You should put like at least 15% downgrade. That is fine. So if you put 15% or 50% or 90%, anything is fine, because it will make the CRM value less than 70, and sales will get promoted into the master record. So that is our main purpose.
I understand.
So percentage, you can take anything.
Okay, thank you.
So Vinay, as a developer, does a developer have the authority to update the trust percentage or
means that only we will be like, usually this we will get in the design document.
So it is the data custodian who is going to decide what will be the trust percentage?
Yeah, the analyst will basically decide what will be the trust percentage, and he will document that in the design document and give it to us. As a developer, we just need to put the numbers.
So it is not we who decide what should be the percentage, right?
Yes. The analyst will be deciding basically.
Oh.
And in case analyst has not put the number, then he works with us only. So we can sit and decide like what is the percentage we have to give.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. So let us like try loading some data here and test this. Okay, I have already some data in this table, so let me truncate this table so that we can load some new data in this table. Actually, I'm accessing some remote server which is for 971. Probably every one of you will be working on the 10 version. This is like 971 version that I'm accessing, because I haven't started the 10 version as of now. My system got hanged. So this is a SOAP UI. Basically, this I will be telling you later, like how to use this SOAP UI. This SOAP UI basically I am using to truncate my table. Okay, so I have truncated the table, customer table, and now we'll see the data in the landing table. So this is my landing table, and in the landing table, we have 3 records here. So based on our condition, like we have that if first name is coming as null, downgrade the first name, and if the last name is coming as null, downgrade the last name value. So what we will do is we have one record where the last name is null, and we have one record where the first name is null. So we have these 2 records, and the third record is having first name as well as the last name value. Both the values are present here. So we'll run this record.
Hey, can you hear me?
And yes, still.
Yeah, I have a question in validation rules, we are giving one column from one source, one other column from, different columns from different sources, right? So
No, validation rule is not source specific. It will get applied for all the sources. Like we have given first name is null. So first name is null will get applied for all the systems that we have. Whichever system is giving me bad data, it will downgrade it by that much percentage.
Okay, that's fine. But in finally, what source it will consider as a final record, and but columns we are giving, for example, first name we are giving from CRM, and
Yes.
last name we are giving from sales. So finally, what source it will consider as a final record?
Depending on the validation, this trust and validation, whichever system will have more trusted record, it will get promoted into the master record.
Why
So
I'm
if
asking
it depends, like
yeah, please. No, one column is giving from one source and other column is giving from different source, right? So I'm confused.
No. And other column is not giving it from other source. Trust is applied when both the systems are giving me data. So CRM system is also giving me first name data, and sales is also giving me first name data. Both are giving the data for the first name. But sometime we know that there is a possibility that the systems might give us null value also, because this we have discussed that in the source system, the forms through which they are inserting the data, there is no validation check that the first name should have some value or the last name should have value. So the data entry operator who is entering the data might forget to enter the first name or might forget the last name value. So I might get this null value there. So they are giving the data then only if trust is only applied if more than one system is giving you the data. So once the data has come up, now we are, for example, 2 scenarios we have, like merging the data when we run the match process later, which is later like we'll be discussing. So once we run the match process, based on certain columns, MDM has identified that there are duplicate records and they needs to be merged. So when we merge, one of the record might have like first name value, the other might not have first name value. For example, CRM might not have a first name value, but because it is more trusted, null value will get promoted into the master record. So we don't want null value. We know that the sales system, which is less trusted system, is giving me value for the first name. So I should take that value, not the null value, into the base object.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So Vinay, having said that, is it like MDM will decide on its own that this is more trusted, this is the more accurate value, and it has to be populated?
Yes, because MDM has already calculated the trust and validation rule, so it knows that what is the trust value of both the system. So
because
while promoting,
we have given it as a less value, right? Sales is 70 and CRM is 80. So ideally, as said, 80 should be having preference. Now, so MDM is intelligent enough to identify that sales is giving valid value.
No, we are putting that value. That is what we are doing. We are putting a validation rule that, for example, if a system is giving me null value for the first name, downgrade it by, for example, 50%. So in case CRM is giving me bad data, I am downgrading it by like 50%. So it is like 40, and sales is giving me some data for the first name. So there is no downgrade. So the value is 70. For CRM, it will be 40. So sales value.
Okay.
Sales value.
So sorry about that. So next time when the data comes, sales will have the precedence over CRM?
No. This is at runtime it happens. This value, whatever you have fixed, this is not going to change. Only at runtime MDM changes the value and decide like which is more trusted and promote that into the master record. Here nothing change, no change will happen. Because that is at a row level and a column level basis it happens. For every row and every column it will do this check. Okay. And that happens only at the runtime. This value, whatever you have specified, it's not going to. This is we are talking only about one record. For one record that is coming, whether the first name is null or not null. So based on that, it will downgrade it. For the other one, which is sending you correct data, it will not downgrade anything. So we'll see an example. We are trying to load the data. So we'll see how the downgrade is happening. Sorry.
This is George again.
Yes.
I think there's some confusion. I think I was listening with other guys who were saying there's a confusion about when those things happen, like when this validation happened and when the downgrade is happening. Because as you said,
so validation happens when you are, as I told, validation will happen when you are loading the data from your staging table to the base object table. MDM calculates the downgrade and it stores in the tables.
Okay,
and
so which table it stores in? It stays in the base?
No, it is in a supporting table that we'll see after loading the data. So it is the supporting table where it will store that, okay, downgrade this column by this percentage. But it is not used as of now. It will be used whenever you are trying to merge the record or whenever you are trying to update the record. At that time, MDM will calculate this trust and validation rule at the fly, and then it will decide what should be promoted at the base object level.
But we do validation on the way to the base when we load the data, right?
Yes, correct.
From staging to base. So that's so that's when it validates the data and determines how much the data can be downgraded.
Yes, correct. It will just decide that how much data to be downgraded, and it will put that into the tables. But it is not used as of now.
Okay.
Because
so if we define it, it will validate on the columns that will define it. Because you said that we need it only for the columns that are going to be merged.
Merge and update. Two scenarios we had seen.
Merge and update. Yeah.
So whenever we are doing merge, we are merging two records, or whenever we are sending an update for a particular record, at that time only this trust and validation rules are calculated and applied.
Okay. So then, coming back to the first question, I think Suresh asked that. If the data comes from, if we are determining if we are validating and determining how much it needs to be downgraded on the way to base, right? So the data comes from stage.
Yeah.
And in a stage, we know where the data coming from. It comes from CRM system or sales system, right? So
yes.
So in the end, when the data is populated in a base, and then after that, we are determining which column we want to promote, right? Which one we want to choose based on the merge of two records.
Yes.
Then it's going to be a mixture of data that came from one system opposed to another, right? So one column can come from one system, another from another system.
Yeah, no, usually like trust, see, that can come, but usually trust is applied on only that column which you are getting data from more than one system. So these are exceptional conditions. We know that first name value I am getting will get from both the system, but that's an exceptional condition where we know that there is a possibility that first name can come as null or last name can come as null. If that condition is there, then I should not take null value. If any other source system is giving me a value, I should take that value into the base object. Okay, let us run this so that at least we will see the percentage, then it will be more clear.
Yeah, I forgot what Suresh was actually trying to ask, but I think he was asking about how do we know which system, which value came from which system or something like that?
No, Judge. My question is, for example, first name condition is satisfied from sales, and last name validation is satisfied from CRM. So in that case, I mean, I'm talking about same record. So in that case, what source will be stored in the final record, like in base object, which source records will be stored?
In base object, like source is not stored. Like, see, whenever I am loading the record,
loading record.
Understood. See, when you load the record for the first time, it will have the CRM or the sales. But when you merge the record, there is no CRM or sales. There is an admin system which will come up in the base object. In the cross reference, you will have that this record is loaded from CRM, this record is loaded from sales. But at the base object level, it will be changed to admin system because you have made a change to the data. So source system name will be admin in the base object level.
Okay. Okay, right. So in the base system, we will select the record, and we don't care where it came from. It's just as our final record, right?
Yeah, correct.
But in a cross reference, we'll have two records, right? One will be from CRM, one will be from source, and there we will know which one came from which system.
Yeah, correct. So we can know that, okay, like in my base object, this is the record, and if I go to my cross reference, I will know that there are two CRM and sales, both are there. So which value has been promoted from CRM, which value has been promoted for same sales, we can know it easily.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
So now, like, I will go and run the batch process. So batch viewer, like we had seen this firstly, so we'll see this again. Basically, stage job basically I have to run. So stage job is basically to load the data from your landing table to the base staging tables. So now, like, which stage job you should run? So stage job, in the stage job, basically it shows the mapping name.
Vinay, this is Madhu. Can you show us the source records before processing it?
Yes, source record. This is the landing table. In the landing table, we have this record, 3 records.
So when we see the final result, the last 2 records are the record source ID. Sorry, record number 2 and 3 will be merged as one.
No. As of now, I am not going to merge it. I am just going to show that once you load the data, what is the trust and validation rule.
Oh,
merging is the next module. So at that time, we will merge the records. As of now, I am not going to merge. I am just showing show you that scenario that once I load the record, the trust should be highest, because see, I am loading it only for the CRM system, only for one system I am going to load. So CRM is having a trust of like 80. So all the columns should have a trust of 80. But because there is some validation downgrade which we have selected, that if last name is null, downgrade the last name and the middle name, and if the first name is coming as null, downgrade the first name. These are the 2 conditions we have put. So we'll just see that it is happening or not.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Put some middle name here. So now like we have to run the stage job. So stage job name will be exactly as as is the mapping name. So whatever mapping name we have given, same thing we need to go and select in the stage job. So for example, my mapping name is this one, STJ customer data from CRM system. So I will go to the batch viewer and I will select the same thing. So stage customer data from the CRM system. So this is like how you will identify like which job you need to run. So job is according to the mapping. So here we need to come and click on the execute batch. So here 3 records were there in the landing table, and all the 3 records are now loaded into my staging table. So once the stage job is done, the next is the load job. So if you go to the load job, again you have so many load jobs which are available here. So which stage job or basically which load job you need to run, that is dependent on the staging table name. So if you go to the mappings again, you can see the staging table name. What is the staging table name we have specified here? The staging table name is STJ CRM customer. So the same job we need to run. If we go to the now again to the batch viewer, we will see this is present. So this is the name load from STG CRM customer. So it is just saying that load the data into the base object from STJ CRM customer. Okay, so all the 3 records are loaded into the base object tables. So now we can go and see the data in my base object. The base object name is like C underscore customer. Okay, so we have loaded the records. Now let us come to the validation tables. So see, whenever you run the load process, which loads the data from your staging table to the base object table, data is populated in these 2 tables, which are called as VCT table and VXR tables. So VCT table is basically used for the base object records, means whatever records are loaded in your base object, VCT is for that purpose, and VXR is for all the records which are loaded into your cross-reference table. So one table for the base object and one table for the cross-reference. In this, if you go to the columns, you will see that for every column that you have selected for validation, initially like as of now, if you go to any base object, you will see only these 5 columns. System columns will be there. There will be no any columns there because you have not selected any column for validation. Once you select any column for validation, you will see that for every row or every column, 3 columns are getting created here in this VCT table and the VXR table. So what data they contain? RMT is basically reserve minimum trust. So the options that we have seen while creating a validation rule, it just tells that the reserve minimum trust is selected or not. So it will have a value as 1 if we have selected it, otherwise 0 if we have not selected that. Similarly, VOK just tells that validation is okay or not. So if the validation is okay, it will be 1. If the validation is not okay, it will be 0. And then the percentage downgrade. If the validation is not okay, it will give you the downgrade percentage, that by how much percentage we need to downgrade the value. So if we go here into the data part, so before that we'll just see the record also in the base object. This is my C customer base object. So at least we will just check that which row, for which row the first name is null and for which row the last name is null. Okay, so see in this one, the row ID object 3 has first name as null and row ID object 2 has last name as null. So we'll first see the first name. So for the first name, what validation we have put here. So if we go to the MDM again, we'll just go to check the validation rule that we have specified, that if first name is null, what is the downgrade percentage? So we are in the validation rule and here we have specified that if first name is null, downgrade the first name by 50%. So it should give me this value 50 in the VCT table. So now again we will go to the SQL developer and go to the VCT table. And in this one I will go to the row ID object 3. This is my row ID object 3. So if we go on the right hand side, see here the value. So I have first name RMT, that is reserve minimum trust. So this we have selected as 1. Selected, so it is showing a value as 1. First name okay. It is 0, means the first name validation is not okay. It has failed the validation. So if it has failed the validation, how much downgrade has to be happen? This is 50%. For the other first and second, you can see validation okay is 1, means we have value for the first name. So that is why there is no downgrade. Downgrade is 0. But because of for the third record, the first name is null, it is saying that we will downgrade it by 50% at a later point of time. Similarly, for the second record. For the second record, last name is null. So we have given a condition that if last name is null, downgrade the middle name and the last name both by 40%. So here you can see middle name is downgraded by 40% and similarly the last name is downgraded by 40%. So this table basically stores this data. Once you run the load process, it calculates the validation and it will store this in the table level. That at a later point of time when we are going to merge the record or when we are sending an update for a record, which value should get promoted into the master record. The same thing I can show you from the MDM also. So if you go to the MDM data manager, as of now the data manager will not work for you because we need to create packages to access the data manager, and that is a later module that we'll be covering. So this I am coming to data manager just to show you the data, the downgrade percentage basically. So here we can see this is the my first name. Sorry, the second record. In the second record, last name is null. So if the last name is coming as null, let me just check the settings here. I think the settings are different. First name is oh. For the middle name there is no trust. That is why we are thinking why the middle name and last name is correct here. Okay, so middle name is 0. For the middle name trust setting is not done, so that is why it is not showing up. But for the other value we can see, for example here first name, if the first name is null, it has downgraded it here by 50%. So this is like 39.99 like 40, and for this is loaded for the CRM system, and CRM is having a trust of 80. The maximum trust for CRM is 80, and we have given a condition that if first name is null, downgrade by 50%. So it is like 50% here. This is like based on the timings, little bit difference is there. So it is like 39.99. And similarly, if we go to the second record where last name is null, so for the last name we have given a different downgrade percentage like 40%. So here you can see the last name has been downgraded by that much percentage. But first name, if you see, it is not downgraded. First name is still like 79.99. So this is the place basically where we can come and see what is the downgrade means what is the actual percentage, because this is again MDM is calculating on the fly. On the fly it is calculating the trust and the validation rule, and based on that it is showing you these numbers. So by looking at the numbers, you can identify that when this record will merge with any other record, what will happen in that scenario. Any questions on this? So both the tables are there. VCT table is there for the base object. So in the VCT table, you can see that there is a row ID object column. And if you go to the VXR table, in the VXR table, you can see row ID XREF, which is the unique key in your cross-reference table. So both are maintained because XREF basically have all the data. All the source system data is always there in the cross-reference book. But in the base object, at a later point of time, when you go and merge the data, the record gets deleted. So that is why it is storing at both the levels, the base object level as well as at the cross-reference level. At both the places, validation are calculated, and whenever we merge the records or update the records, it will use this percentage to decide like which record should be promoted at the base object level. Okay, so we'll continue with this load process tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll see the consolidation process, basically how the MDM consolidates the data into the master record. Because as of now what we have discussed is just about the trust, that if the trust is more it will promote it into the base object level, but there might be some other scenarios where the trust is also same. So what will happen in those cases? So that we'll be seeing those things and the other things which are related to the load process, about the inserts and the updates that happen. So which scenarios the insert happens, which scenarios the updates happen. So those things we'll be covering tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks.
Hello, Vinay.
Yes, you tell me.
I have a doubt in module 2 lab. Where is metadata manager here in the MDM in the configuration? Is it a repository manager?
Yes. I told that in the new, that is basically in the older version. In the new version, it is like a repository manager. In the old version, two differences I told, like this. Here we have a repository manager now. Previously it was metadata manager, and on the down there is a process server, which is like cleanse server in the lab. That's the two differences you will find.
Where is the process server?
At the down, here we have a process server.
Process server is cleanse server.
Cleanse server, yeah. Only two names are changed. Other than that, everything is same.
Okay, thank you.